Hello everyone, welcome to For His Namesake. We are glad that you're here with us. Valentine and I will be talking about what it means to be ambassadors for Christ. Well, you may ask, what is an ambassador? I looked it up, and on Google Oxford Dictionary it says two meanings. An ambassador is an accredited diplomat sent by a country as its official representative to a foreign country. I like that one. And the second meaning is a representative of a specified activity. So either one can be an ambassador for something, but we're going to be talking about being an ambassador for Christ, and I will share from Ephesians chapter 6. This is chapter 6, verse 1 through 20. Paul is talking about putting on the full armor of God, and then he adds in verse 19, "And for me that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak." And I want Valentine to explain what that means to be an ambassador in chains.
Well, when I got a commentary out, chains back then were a gold adornment worn around the neck and wrists of the wealthy and powerful. And on special occasions, ambassadors back then, they wore these fancy chains to show the riches, the power, and the dignity of the government they were representing. So anytime the person saw this ambassador, like, wow, that country is very rich and powerful and wealthy. So Paul considered his own prisoner chains, like really chains. These were not gold at all. These were probably very painful around his wrists and ankles for his sake. But he considered that to be his own adornment for Christ, the riches of Christ.
Yeah.
A beautiful example. Like
It is.
this ambassador showing off all the wealth and everything, but wearing a chain for Christ is showing how dedicated you are. You really do want to represent Christ.
Yeah, that kind of, I guess, I don't know why when you said that, it made me think of people who you've seen them probably on highways, and they're walking and they've got nothing with them except this huge cross, this wooden cross, and they're just carrying across. I could not do that. I'm sorry, I just couldn't. I'm not ready yet for that. Spiritually, I'm not there yet, but I really am very encouraged to see people doing that, just basically bearing that cross like Jesus did, and it's really heavy, and they've got onlookers looking at them going, what a weirdo, what's he doing? I mean, does he think he's Jesus or something? But that kind of made me, when you said that they're wearing their chains, made me think of that too, that those people are bearing the cross just like Jesus did. And while we're on that subject of ambassadors for Christ, did you have this Bible verse in 2 Corinthians, or do you want me to share that?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 20 and 21. "Now then, we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God were pleading through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God."
I like that phrase, pleading, where it says as though God were pleading through us. To plead is another word that means to beseech, to ask for. He's asking us, please represent me, and represent me well to others, so that they can see me, they can see my son Jesus.
Yeah. And now we'll give you some ways to be an ambassador for Christ. One is we need to represent Christ, and we've got some Bible verses here that we can share. Did you want to read? I don't know if you can read my writing.
From Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, the first part of verse 20 says, "I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me." Oh, that's one of my favorites. I've quoted that often on the channel. I like that.
That's nice, yeah. And then a second one would be, "Now then, we are ambassadors for Christ." Maybe I read that just now. "As though God were..."
Yes.
Yeah, I read that. That's from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20a. So that would be representing Christ. And then another way would be, we would need to strive to be Christ-like. And I've got a couple of Bible verses on that. Did you want to don't know if you can read my writing in any
From
of these.
Colossians
Yeah.
3, 1 and 2.
Unless you had another one of your own.
I do, but
Okay.
over this one from Colossians. If then you are raised with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on things in earth. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God.
And you said you had one on that one, when we strive to be Christ-like.
To be Christ-like, that famous passage from Romans chapter 12, 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. It's a service to do. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So,
Nice.
yeah, there is a sacrifice that comes with being an ambassador. It's not going to be all roses,
Yeah, that's true. And here's Ephesians, which is your favorite book of the Bible. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Therefore be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us, and gives himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma.
Oh, there's that word sacrifice again.
Yeah. Okay, and then another way would be we are to share the gospel. That's another requirement to be an ambassador of Christ. And I've got a couple of Bible verses here. And did you come up with any? As I'm sure you. I think you
did
mentioned
have
some.
one, yeah.
Okay.
But here's one from Mark 16:15. And Jesus said to them, it's the disciples, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature.
Yeah, that's
Which
what my
sounds
Bible.
familiar to the Great Commission verse in Matthew 28.
Yes, and you said you had one too as well.
1 Thessalonians 2:4. But as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, even so we speak, not as pleasing men, but God who tests our heart. We are entrusted with the gospel.
And here's another one. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. But you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be witnesses to me in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. I like that one. Isn't that kind of poetic sounding? Yeah. Okay, and then another way would be we should be bold in our faith to share the gospel with the lost world. So this is not a time to be all shy and ashamed. We need to be bold in declaring his word, the gospel. I guess I'll read the first one here. Be diligent to present yourself approved to God, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's from 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. And then I had another one here. Do you want to read this one?
Romans 1:16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek.
And did you have any more on your notes?
I didn't, but I was going to say it kind of reminds me of Stephen. He's known as the first martyr. He was very bold in sharing his faith. Even when they were gathering all the stones to kill him, he kept on just talking.
Yeah. I couldn't do that. Okay, another way would be we should be alert for opportunities to share Jesus to others. And got some Bible verses there. Did you want to read the first one?
2 Timothy 4:2. Preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season.
Convince, rebuke. Sorry.
Exhort with all long suffering and teaching.
Yeah, sorry, my writing's a little messy.
You're fine.
And then this one's from Matthew chapter 9, verse 37 and 38. Then he said to his disciples, this is Jesus talking, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Yeah. And then another way is we need to know the central message of the gospel and be able to reply to anyone who has questions, concerns, and to those of other faiths who might say, oh, yeah, I believe the same thing you do. We believe in, because I've heard of Muslims saying to me, oh, yeah, we believe in the same God. And no, we don't. Okay. And to those who may refute the gospel, as there's those that will have an argument with you. We've been there before with, we've had Mormons come into our home, and we've had Jehovah's Witnesses come into our home, and those are not of the same gospel.
And,
so you need to know.
It's so tricky. I almost got I hate to use the word deceived, but I was. Not that I agree with Mormonism, but I was watching a YouTube channel once about this Christian family. I thought they were Christian. They had a lot of kids, and they were talking even about praying and fasting. Like, oh, we just prayed and fasted, Lord, about what we should do. And then later they revealed that they were Mormons. They were even driving to the Mormon temples. Like, oh no. And I'm not making fun, because it's sad at the same time just how easy it is to be deceived, because they will say there's God. I've had Mormon girls come up to say, oh yes, we know Jesus, we know the word, but then I also found out, well, they don't just believe the word, they believe all the other books too.
Right. Yeah.
So careful.
Yes. So these are some Bible verses that you can say to people like that. Here's one, the famous one, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Now, probably the Mormons would probably believe in that as well. But if you were to say something like, let's see,
that one.
This one right here,
yeah.
John chapter 14, verse 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. They would have a problem with that. Definitely.
Yeah.
And so would the Jehovah's Witness, and so would the Muslims.
And all other religions out there.
Exactly. So those are some of the Bible verses that we can share with those kind of people who might refute the one and only true gospel, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Let's see, here's a perfect one. Exodus chapter 20, verse 3, you shall have no other gods before me. So, yeah. Where's another one? Here, you
John
can read
11,
that one.
25 and 26. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?
Yeah, and I'm sure that y'all can come up with a lot more scripture. We were just coming up with 2 to 3, and yeah. And then I think finally, another aspect or trait that we need to have as ambassadors for Christ is when we're doing all these things, sharing the gospel and letting people know that we are truly Christians and wanting to share the gospel with others, we need to have grace and kindness.
That one is tricky for me. I've never had to share the gospel like in a harsh way, but with even believers, when I have a disagreement with someone, I'm very quick to kind of get passionate.
I think we all are, if we're honest. If we're honest. So did you want to? You want me to read it?
Yeah.
I felt like a good one about that, and there's lots of other Bible verses that talk about, like let the meditation of my mouth. That's a popular one too. But this one is from Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 through 14. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, bearing with one another, and forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against another, even as Christ forgave you, so you must also do. But above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfection. And then it goes on, but I was just going to read those two verses.
That passage is one of my New Year resolution passages.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, so these are some of the different traits that we need to have as ambassadors for Christ. And then we were discussing before we were going to do this talk that another aspect or trait we need to have is to also help those who have been backsliding, that are Christians, they are saved, but they've been backsliding. They've kind of fallen away from God, and how we need to kind of encourage them and bring them back to God. So we need to be exemplifying Christ on a daily basis so that they see, wow, Martina and Valentine, they haven't changed. Just as an example, oh wow, okay, I kind of backslid, but they're still going strong, as an example. So that would be an example that they would be seeing us. I've backslid. I mean, y'all know my testimony. I've backslidden so many times in the past.
Oh, me too.
But so there's times where we all fall away. We're discouraged with what life hands us, or we are waiting on God and He's not answering us when we want Him to, or how we want Him to. Those are all different ways that we could backslide easily. Or if you get caught up in the wrong crowd, or some friends from your past show up and they're not Christians, and you start hanging around with them and they're drinking, and then you say, oh, I think I can drink too, and before you know it, you're drunk. So those are all examples of backsliding, and there's a zillions of other reasons why someone would backslide, but it's important for the rest of us Christians to hang on to our faith and keep striving to be Christ-like, and show that to the world watching us, because there's always people watching us. When you're in public, there's always people watching and listening to our conversations.
Not only that, but even the most embarrassing time, sometimes it's even your own friends and family. They're the people who are closest to you, and they have the most watchful eyes because they know you so well. And so it gets kind of embarrassing when you say something like, oops.
Right.
You're supposed to be the best example to your family. That is your mission field, really, is your family first and then the world after.
Right.
So
that does make it very challenging.
It does. So that's why when we are being ambassadors for Christ, we need to pray.
Yeah.
Pray hard. Wear the armor of God that it mentions in Ephesians. Wear it well. Because like I said, the devil's going to do every tactic he can to make you forget that you are even an ambassador.
Yes. Isn't that true? Yeah. Okay.
And we should know.
Right.
We've all been there, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, so, God brought this topic to my attention this morning when I was reading through Ephesians, which Valentine and I have been doing a study on, a workbook study that was 10 weeks long, and it's really given us a lot of ideas for a lot of the last few topics that we've been doing, actually. So, yeah. So.
It's a great book, and this topic was pretty convicting, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, well.
We hope that you like, subscribe, click the notification bell, leave your comments below. How are you being ambassadors of Christ? How can we pray for you to be a representative for Jesus Christ? Or send us an email if you prefer that too. And we hope that you have a lovely and blessed day. Bye.
Bye-bye.